Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is me again, Attorney HadiHarp, and welcome to another episode of Legacy Planning TV. Today I want to talk about a few ways that assets can avoid the need to go through probate. In the previous video, I sort of introduced, when probate may be required. And so here's a few ways that assets can basically be distributed after you pass away without needing to go through the probate process. Okay, and there's three main ways. Number one, if property is jointly owned. If you got a bank account or if you got a house that's owned jointly between you and your wife, for example, or you and a child, then passing away will basically just automatically give that account or that property to your spouse or your child. When it comes to property, though, be careful. There is a difference between having real estate held in a joint tenancy versus tenants in common. It's a whole nother video and topic, but be careful when it comes to real property, because joint tenancy and tenants in common are not the same thing. Number one, joint tenant or jointly held. Number two is what's called a pay on death designation or transfer on death designation. If you got a bank account, a lot of banks now are allowing you to list someone as a beneficiary upon your passing, and so ultimately you pass away. Instead of that bank account being, frozen until probate comes along and says, let's give it to this person, you can put a beneficiary designation on it, so it basically transfers to whoever you list in the beneficiary designation. Same thing with life insurance. You take out a life insurance policy and you say, okay, if I pass away, I want the policy to go to this person, and you list that person. Same thing with a transfer on death, pay on death beneficiary designation. If you've got that set up properly, it's a beast of contract law, so it should avoid the need to go through the probate process for that account. The third main way to avoid assets having to go through the probate process is setting up a revocable living trust. And that's a whole nother beast as well. But ultimately, what you're doing while you're alive is you are transferring the property from your individual name, whether that's your bank account, whether that's your house, whatever it is, you're transferring from your individual name into the name of the trust. So when you pass away, okay, your individual name is no longer on those assets. What's listed on those assets is the trust, and so the trust can live on after you pass away, and it's basically an agreement that you come to terms with, and you basically say, okay, after I pass away, I want the property to go to the benefit of this person or that person. And so you've effectively avoided probate by setting up a revocable living trust and titling your assets in the name of the trust. So those are the three big main ways that people can avoid probate court with their assets. And again, to recap, that's titling the property in the joint name, whether it's joint tenancy or a joint account. Number two, putting a beneficiary designation or pay on death designation or transfer on death designation on an account. There's probably a form you got to fill out, and all those forms are probably going to look a little bit different depending on the bank or who you're dealing with. And then thirdly, setting up a revocable living trust. So these are proactive planning steps that you can take now while you're alive, so that you can avoid having your family go through probate court during what's probably already an emotional time. If you have any questions about that or anything we talked about, feel free to visit estateplanchat.com. Schedule a time to chat with me for 15 minutes for free. You can do that, again, estateplanchat.com. I want to thank you for listening. I appreciate you, and until next time, be safe out there.